Welcome back. The hearing on the Nirav Modi bail plea is underway in London right now. After a short break for lunch, there are a few very significant arguments that have been made in court. Toby Cadman, representing the Crown prosecution on behalf of Indian authorities in his final submission to London's Westminster Magistrate Court, has said that Nirav Modi isn't cooperating with the Indian agencies and there is a risk that he might run if he is let out on bail. There's also a risk that he'll influence witnesses and destroy evidence. And in something fairly shocking, there were details released of how Nirav Modi had threatened to kill one of the witnesses. My colleague Nikunj is in London right now, joins us live. Nikunj, good afternoon to you. It's good evening here in India, but could you tell us what were those details of that death threat that Nirav Modi made to one of the witnesses? It now does seem like he has the ability to threaten people across borders.
Well, Faye, the big escalation, in fact, the dramatic escalation that today happened in the courtroom, part of it was part of the deposition that the prosecution made, and part of it what we have gleaned from our sources in the Enforcement Directorate. Nirav Modi took at least 12 of his directors to Cairo in Egypt, seized all their passports, confined them. So that's illegal confinement and threat to life. And then finally, some of them could manage to make good their escape. Back home in India, contacted the agencies, and that's when that deposition came about which you are talking, in which one of the key persons, one of the key accountants of Nirav Modi's enterprises, Ashish Lad, has accused Nirav Modi of threatening to kill him and then trying to bribe him for giving a false testimonial to the enforcement agencies. Now, these are obviously allegations of the prosecution, which are very stoutly being contested as you and I speak by the defense lawyer Claire Montgomery, who's obviously a very leading barrister in London's legal circuits, and very capable anti-extradition lawyer, if one can put it like that. Her submission is going on. But in the past, when the bail hearing came for the first time, neither the prosecution, obviously since the prosecution didn't make, defense didn't have a chance, make any allegations about the criminal aspect of Nirav Modi's behavior. This is for the first time, for the denial of the bail, that the prosecution has dramatically escalated the matters and said that his entire behavior is of a hardened criminal, and this is no business going bust or mere case of a financial swindle, but this is a hardened criminal who's trying to destruct evidence. They have counted 2 counts of destruction of evidence, data destroyed from a mobile phone and another electronic gadget, and the threatening witnesses and falsifying account books. So they've completely taken it into a criminal domain from a financial white-collar crime, which the defense obviously would want it to be restricted to, because then they have some amount of chance of him securing a bail. And another development that has happened is, which shows clearly the defense right now at least is on the back foot, is that Claire Montgomery in last 10 minutes has said that, my client is ready for an electronic 24/7 surveillance. If you think he is such a big flight risk and he is in a position to threaten witnesses, then my client is ready for 24/7 electronic surveillance, which is, I would say, quite a big concession that she is willing to give to the prosecution, Faye.
Well, Nikunj, tell us this. The directors who were taken to Cairo and who were threatened, their passports were held back by Nirav Modi. Do we know when this happened, or allegedly when did this take place? Did it happen when the company was still actually functioning as normal in India before January 2018, before we found out about this entire scam?
Yes, that's a very valid question you asked, Faye, and I asked that question to the source in the Enforcement Directorate, and he did tell me that this was happening just before the businesses went bust, which means that Nirav Modi at that point of time, when he knew that the agencies can be in hot pursuit after him very, very shortly, was trying to destroy evidence, and destruction of evidence is a very important charge that the prosecution has leveled against him today on multiple counts. As I said, he has destroyed records, falsified account books. But prior to all of that happening, he took his entire core team of the employees rather, according to the Enforcement Director, directors of his companies, 12 of them, to Cairo in Egypt, and then look at his behavior. You know, even if your business has gone bust, you can try and discuss it with your directors as to what position the company would take once, if at all, any criminal filings are made by the enforcement agencies. That's fairly legitimate. You still have, legitimate ways to describe that behavior. But look at his behavior. He takes away, snatches actually their passports, confines them, threatens them that if any one of them ever deposes against him, he would be bumped off, he would be killed. And this clearly gives an indication to the, bent of mind. The man's mind is clearly, according to the enforcement agencies, this is not our claim, working in a criminal direction. So this is pure out criminal case, criminal behavior of a hardened criminal, not just a case which can be compared to Mr. Vijay Mallya's case, which still has some ground to cover for itself, some water holes there, in the sense that there was a legitimate, flourishing business. Mr. Mallya did put in a substantial chunk of his own money into it, and then when the monies were diverted from the banks, it became into the criminal prosecution ambit. But in this case, the behavior of, before even the cases were registered, the entire behavior of Nirav Modi not only borders into the criminal aspect of the criminal jurisprudence, but actually is completely in that territory. All the charges that you would bring from confining illegally people out of a jurisdiction that they don't want to be in, threatening them, forcing people to falsify records and give false testimonials, is all part of criminal jurisprudence.
Well, Nikuj, I have a quick question for you. Just going back a little bit to what happened before Nirav Modi fled the country, and you just talked about how the prosecution in the UK have said, allegedly, that he got his directors to travel to Cairo with him, and he threatened to kill them if they were to bear witness against him. Now, we do know that the directors of the board of, would have included some independent directors as well, who were not technically employees of his company, who were independent of him. We also know there was an IT department 10,000-page report that came out in 2017 pointing to problems, and several problems in vigilance were not reported in the bank. So this was obviously building for a very long time. The Income Tax Department called it dubious for a very long time. Is there possibility that there were more threats issued or more bribes issued or more reasons why the 7-year scam took so long to come out in the public eye?
Well, Faye, if you were attending this hearing and if you were listening to it like a ball-by-ball commentary, you would certainly come to that conclusion. But I am just reserving my judgment on that because of the fact that the full potential submissions that the enforcement agencies can make and the counter to that the defense can make are yet to come in the public domain. And that would happen only during the trial, when the judge deems it to be a fair case, for a fit case for extradition hearing, and a trial begins. Right now, we are only into a bail hearing. So I would certainly suspect that kind of behavior which you are indicating, of trying to cover the tracks and trying to, put a lid to what was going inside the company, the mega scam that was building up, have been there for quite some time, and that too at the very top of the company owners like Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi. But I would say that, let the more material come on the record, and then probably we can come on that conclusion fairly and squarely. As of now, I will say that one would certainly suspect that kind of behavior happening and that kind of going on in the company, inside the company.
All right, Nikunj, many thanks for joining us with that. Hope you stay warm, and we understand he's going to track the rest of that hearing for us and bring us more updates as and when they happen. We'll go back to Nikunj when he does have an update for us. But while we keep a close eye on the extradition process of Nirav Modi, and we hope that he's brought back, there is evidence of other people letting him get away scot-free, and those people are not being held accountable in India. Just look at the evidence. When the case was filed in January last year, the fraud had been taking place for 7 years before that. Now, for some reason, the accounts of the banks that have to be reconciled every year didn't throw up any red flags. The audits and the auditors didn't throw up any red flags. The RBI that is supposed to look at the audits of the bank didn't say anything either for 7 years. The chief vigilance officer of the bank, and there's one in every bank, who has to report directly to the Chief Vigilance Commissioner of India and doesn't report to the management of the bank, did not report any violations for 7 years. The RBI officer, who is a member of the board of the bank and signs the documents on the bank, did not notice anything or report anything for that entire time either. The interesting part is this: in 2017, the Income Tax Department had filed a 10,000-page report on Nirav Modi and his uncle. And the report pointed out to dubious transactions, money that was being funneled in from overseas, and the department called it suspicious money from suspicious sources, bogus purchases of property, and loans that were going back and forth between group companies that didn't make any sense. This report, though, was not shared with anyone. So normally when the Income Tax Department finds something, they have to give it to an enforcement authority like the CBI or the ED or the Serious Fraud Investigating Office in order to then enforce and actually bring them to book and file a complaint. The Income Tax Department told no one. No one said a word. No one complained to the authorities, even from within the bank. In fact, the FIR from PNB was filed only after Nirav Modi had enough time to move himself and his family safely out of the country. We have to ask some serious questions. And we might be distracted right now by what's happening in London, and we might cheer for the ED and the CBI valiantly trying to bring him back. But we should also insist that those who let him get away in the first place be held accountable. Because if we don't, then more of these cases are going to take place. On the show with me right now, Niti Jain for the BJP, J.N. Gupta, Managing Director of the Stakeholders Empowerment Services, former ED of SEBI, Ashutosh is a senior journalist, Geeta Luthra, senior advocate with the Supreme Court, and Ravindra Gupta, Joint Secretary at the All India Bank Officers Confederation. I welcome all of you to this conversation. Thank you for joining us. I must also note it's always a pleasure to have a panel discussion where there's an even split of gender, women and men. That's nice as well. Geeta Luthra, my first question is to you. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Ms. Luthra, you know, while again the government has said several things about bringing him back, we haven't held the people in PNB accountable for what happened. We haven't held the Income Tax Department accountable for not doing anything about what they had discovered a year before he left. If all of these people had done their jobs, including the RBI, Nirav Modi would have never been allowed to leave the country. Do you believe, in your opinion, that there is enough being done,
or at least
to stop the conspiracy? Please go ahead.
So I don't know whether there's enough being done. Obviously, at this point, everything is focused on the criminal charges and getting him back. Now, my concern in most of these cases is that we delay the whole process so long that then we want to get after one or two people for complicity. The fact is, there's a whole lineup of people who are complicit, and most of them will not even be seen on paper. It'll be people who had given oral instructions. Now, that's one of the reasons why I feel banking shouldn't be a public sector affair.
Yes.
It was always a private sector, enterprise, and should remain that, because then they will concentrate on companies which will actually be generating money and which will not allow. It's not that a fraud can't happen with them. Frauds have been known to happen even with private enterprises and private banks. But the fact is that this is one aspect which today we are talking about criminality. Today we are talking about extradition. Today we are talking about cheating. Today we are saying the LOUs were, they were flawed, and that we should have seen that there was enough and that they weren't being reused and the money wasn't being recycled. But this is the very, very same thing which they should have seen right in the beginning. And then they may not even, firstly, they wouldn't have lent monies. Secondly, they wouldn't have had to make criminal charges. They would have probably recovered enough of their money from the securities and the amounts that he had, which were available in India. But you let that whole process go on. You let it have a spiraling effect. And it can't just be the bankers. It has to be people above the bankers. It has to be people who were complicit in it. You can't pick up one manager or one general manager or someone and say because he signed a page, he may have done the, signed something because his boss told him. So the whole question here is that such a big fraud does not happen if very senior, very senior people are not involved and not complicit. Now, to catch some small fry or middle fry is actually wholly unfair. That's what I feel about the matter.
Yes, and Ashutosh ji, my question, the same question to you. Obviously, there has been a cover-up, and given what what Nikunj was just telling us from London, it has now. And 1 second before I ask that question, we understand that that we have breaking news right now. No bail for Nirav Modi. I'm just bringing you that breaking news as we speak at this point. No bail for Nirav Modi. The UK court has denied bail for Nirav Modi. Let's put that breaking information on the screen for our viewers, please, if we can. Nirav Modi will continue to stay in jail in London. This is a hearing that has been on since this morning in the UK, in London at the Westminster Court. And just after lunch, there were more arguments being made. Nirav Modi's our lawyer. Yes, in fact, let's just cut across to London where Nikunj will give us a report.
Look here, this is not a bail decline for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, for 6 weeks now. Nirav Modi will have to be behind the bars. So for next 1.5 months, the man is not going to come out. The judge has asked for proper pagination and indexing. She's a very particular lady. This happened in case of Mr. Malia also. And but the crucial and critical point is that the entire evidence gathered by the Indian law enforcement agencies, at least at this juncture in this case, stands vindicated. On each count, the judge has found that the prosecution is in the right, and despite substantial concessions from the defense, like Ms. Claire Montgomery agreeing to 24/7 electronic surveillance of our client, the judge has still declined to give him bail. So I would say this is from the prosecution's point of view. I have not come to the adjudication bit, Rahul. From the prosecution's point of view, it's a substantial, big win. John, what do you think? What do you think what has happened here?
I think this is absolutely astounding development. We arrived here this morning, as you say, expecting a fairly dry, white-collar, business-style bail application. And we were swiftly plunged into something that deserves in the pages of a Hollywood film. Death threats, murder threats, witness accusations of witness tampering, witness manipulation, destruction of evidence. If any or all of this is true, it's astounding alleged criminal behavior, isn't it? And despite Claire Montgomery's efforts to row this back, offering £2 million worth of bail surety, offering to wear an electronic tag 24 hours a day, she's having none of it at all. She clearly considers him to be a very dangerous man, and that's why he's going back to prison.
Absolutely, and Rahul, this is unprecedented,
unparalleled. All right, we're going to come out of that. That was a report that we brought to you. Nirav Modi has not been granted bail. He will remain in jail for another 6 weeks in the UK. No bail has been granted to Nirav Modi. Remember, viewers, this was a bail hearing. This is not an extradition hearing. That hasn't even begun. The whole argument about whether or not he should be sent back to India hasn't even begun. This has just been a second attempt at bail. Going back to my panelists at this point, Ashutosh ji, obviously, Nirav Modi not getting bail. Again, this is going to be considered a victory for the CBI and the ED. But if we just go back to what Ms. Luthra was telling us before we cut across to London, it's obvious that the ED and the CBI and the Income Tax Department had blindfolds on for a very long time because they let him get away. And now they're making a big show about bringing him back.
See, I think the 3 points which has to be important, and that point has to be underlined. The point number 1, that he was allowed to do a fraud of this magnitude, and several banks were involved, and still nobody took any note of it. And when the second point is that he was allowed to leave and flee the country, and nobody had any idea. And third, when he left this country, then now the government agencies seem to be in a great hurry because elections are around the corner. But one of the story which was broken by one of the rival channels has very clearly said that the Serious Fraud Office of London tried to contact Indian agencies 3 times. Their counsel, Barry Stancombe, and Barry Stancombe has written 3 letters because he thought that the material which has been provided to him was not sufficient and he wanted more evidences and more materials, but there was absolutely no response from the Indian agencies. And then he stopped pursuing the case in the month of December. In fact, he also wanted to come over to India and wanted to talk and chat with the government agencies, but nothing has happened. Now, the point is very simple. The whole country wants to know what happened to Nirav Modi, how he could get away, what is happening, when he's coming back. And here, the Serious Fraud Office of London wanted several papers, wanted assistance from the government Indian agencies, but there was no support, no assistance, and finally they left pursuing the case. The point which is important is that Nirav Modi cannot be so powerful. There must be somebody very, very powerful who did not let Indian agencies to pursue the case. If he was not spotted by Guardian on the streets of the London, probably this case wouldn't have come to the court also.
Well, Mr. Jain Gupta, do you agree that perhaps more should have been done, even by the RBI? The RBI has an officer on the board of PNB. This, this director on the board of the bank has to sign all of the final accounts of the year and notice nothing. How is it possible that for 7 years they noticed nothing?
See, as 2 of the other panelists have spoken, I would say that it is very, very difficult to pinpoint who is at fault or all of them are fault. The fact is very simple. In Indian condition, many things happen on the basis of your reputation. And most of the time what happens, you feel, oh, this man is so big, he must be right. That is our wrong philosophy. A man, however big or small, one has to go through the same scrutiny as any person goes. Now, start on this. There have been, to begin with, I will say that RBI should introspect and find out how the LOU business came into existence. Because whenever you start a new product, you always evaluate the risk. And RBI had issued a circular which said LC, bank guarantees and LOU. Now, when RBI put all the 3 in the same bucket, which was a very wrong thing, because LCs and bank guarantees are internationally accepted instruments, and there are laws which are very strict and everybody is aware and they follow the same law standard. LOU was a new animal created. Now, when I create a new animal, or even in my and your house, if you start some new system, you monitor that system very carefully so that there is no danger to the people that living in the house. Here, RBI created LOU and forget about it. They never monitored what is happening. So that was the first fault, that first you clubbed between LOU with LC and bank guarantee, then you did not follow. I have been a regulator myself, and whenever we have issued any new product in the market from SEBI side, we have committees which monitor each and everything. Every week and fortnight the things are monitored so that the risk do not escalate. So that was the first failure. The second failure happened in the system, which everybody is now saying that SWIFT was not reconciled to the core banking or something. I really do not understand how can the present day banking be done when the 2 systems are not reconciled with each other. Then usual case that a phone call could have come, or you have got so much money with you, or because a diamond is a diamond, it shines. So Nirav Modi was shining and everybody was mesmerized with the shine. So that happened. Now the other thing is that we operate in buckets. As you rightly pointed out, Income Tax Department had 10,000 page report. Now that report was in a one bucket. It is like this, the 2 of us are sitting in the same department on one sheet. I am issuing a charge sheet from one sheet, and other sheet you are standing and giving a approval letter. So this type of behavior is very wrong. Income Tax Department should have taken RBI, SEBI, Senior Fraud Operation, MCA. Everyone should be on the same page. In our country, what happens? I want to score over you, you want to score over me, so we don't share the information. And ultimately, at the end of the day, but I would not agree.
In fact, I have this question for Geeta
Let us
Luthra.
not give it a political color as Mr. Ashutosh was trying to give.
Yes, I have this question. I want to take this to Geeta Luthra. Ms. Luthra, could you tell us this? There will be, of course, a lot of noise about the fact that, now the Indian government has brought him to the book. He's in jail in UK and we've only had 2 bail hearings. This is nowhere near bringing him to the book, is it?
No, it's nowhere near. I'm sure that against the bail order, he'll file an appeal, but one must appreciate that it is unprecedented. So the judge must have seen some material. It's very, very unusual for a bail in a matter of this nature in extradition matters, and we've seen so many matters going into extradition. Bail has not been denied. So the court must have felt that there is this apprehension of tampering, of interfering with the witnesses, threatening the witnesses, and the court wants to look at it further. Or it has formed its prima facie view, because otherwise to deny bail would be surprising. So I think in that sense, it's definitely a step in the right direction as far as the government is concerned. Of course, there are miles to go, but that's the case in every extradition hearing, whether in India or any part of the world, because that's why a person goes to another part of the world and is able to be brought back by saying, yes, this is an extraditable offense, it's a serious offense, and that court then examines, is there a prima facie case? And obviously the court found something in the case that it denied him bail for at least 6 weeks.
Yes. In fact, I have this question then for Neeti Jain of the BJP.
So of course
Ms.
it's
Jain.
only a step.
Yes. Ms. Jain, while we understand and we're being told from London that no bail will be granted to Nirav Modi, the question that we must ask is why the government hasn't held other people accountable, why he was allowed to embezzle money for 7 years before we discovered, why the Income Tax Department kept quiet about it for so long, and why top authorities of the PNB haven't been actually investigated or taken into custody. Ms. Jain, are we going soft?
I definitely think we're not going soft on anything about Nirav Modi, because as soon as the matter was escalated, within a few days, about 5,100 crore of his of the entire amount that he owed was taken up by the ED. So there was about 5,100 crore that the ED had confiscated. There were properties, more than 35 properties that were attached within 1 week. Across 5 countries, a lot of his properties were attached, and his passport was cancelled, and a lot of other steps were taken. So we're definitely not going soft on the entire issue. Apart from that, it is very
well, his passport was cancelled, but
there is one issue that had been raised in 2013.
But Interpol was not informed and he continued to travel
as well, so which is what he has been using.
Why wasn't Interpol informed on time?
I'm sorry, what?
Interpol was not informed and he continued to travel after India cancelled his passport.
Interpol had issued a lookout notice. The Interpol had issued a lookout notice. The CBDT had confiscated 29 properties. The kind of action that has been taken against Nirav Modi is probably the quickest and the swiftest that has been done by the current government. And besides it is very difficult to ignore the fact that was brought up that in 2013, when Rahul Gandhi had met Nirav Modi, the very next day he was given the loan. So if a person has contacts of that level, we understand that probably the lower levels would not cooperate or will collude against
Ms. Jain, are you seriously going to make this argument after Nirav Modi was seen photographed with the Prime Minister in Davos? just less than a month before all of this came out? I mean, are we seriously going to do a Rahul Gandhi versus Prime Minister Modi conversation here? We should be talking about the Enforcement Directorate, the CBI, the Income Tax Department, the RBI. All of these people failed and no one has been held accountable.
The ED has gone to London. They've put across...
It's not good enough. I'm sorry.
May I finish, please? The ED has gone to London. They have put across a very strong case, and which is why Nirav Modi has been denied the bail. Right? So all of those issues are there. You asked me why was nothing done for 7 years. The case started in 2011. Right? So why was nothing done?
Okay.
So all I'm saying is that this is one fact which cannot be ignored entirely.
Okay, you know, I have a really genuine question to ask you.
He met and the next day he was sanctioned the loan.
Okay, I have a genuine question to ask you, Niti Jain. And I'm asking you this question as a citizen. If you're telling me that back in 2013, Nirav Modi met Rahul Gandhi and he was given this loan. 2014, the BJP government came into power with a full majority. You have been in power ever since. You're in power in the state of Maharashtra. You control the Maharashtra police because it's the BJP government in Maharashtra as well. Are you telling me that one meeting with Rahul Gandhi in 2013 empowers a person so much that the state police can't do anything, the CBI can't do anything, the central government can't do anything, the ED can't do anything, the Income Tax Department can't do anything, and the RBI can't do anything? Then what government have you been running for the last 5 years? If Rahul Gandhi is he really that powerful? I should be very concerned as a citizen.
As soon as the matter was escalated, you tell me, has any government taken such swift action on any economic fugitive?
This is not good enough. This is the point I'm telling you. It's not good enough. All right. Let me bring rebuttals. No, I'm sorry.
It does not help to put the BJP in the courtroom for...
No, one second. Mr. Ravindra Gupta, Joint Secretary of the All India Bank Officers Confederation, has been listening very carefully. Mr. Gupta, here's the question. Chasing after Nirav Modi is important. It should be done. What about all of those people who let him get away? And why was he allowed to get away to begin with, Mr. Gupta? Shouldn't we be asking those questions?
Thank you, Faye. First of all, in the beginning, that the first speaker, with due respect to her, how easily she passed the statement that the banking should immediately be given to the private sector. I think this is not correct. And moreover, this private sector is not the epitome high standards of the governance. You must have seen some cases of the private sector banks. What has happened to them in the past, in the present, what is going on. And the banking has been established by the public sector in this country. They have been giving a lot of services to the people over here. No doubt that this is a big question, that what has happened to this particular transaction. This letter of comfort is a very unique product. Mr. Gupta in the beginning has explained so many things about that. That is a contingent liability which is not appearing in the accounting system straight. This letter of credit or the guarantees or the letter of comfort. Letter of comfort has been used by Nirav Modi from the beginning, because since as on date, whosoever is sitting on this panel and the sitting on outside these 14 months, even today the people may not know what is this LOC was. Exactly, what is the process and what are the modalities about the LOC. Really, it is a system failure in the banking system, and Nirav Modi and his company has taken the advantage of the knowledge and experience about handling this product. Because as on date, entire banking is not handling this product very commonly. It's a very uncommon product. And moreover, that SWIFT system, the Reserve Bank of India no doubt given the instruction in the 2016 that all the public sector bank and the Punjab National Bank to integrate their core banking system with this SWIFT system to reduce the
Forgive me, Mr. Gupta, I just have to cut across to London one more time. Mr. Gupta, I'm just going to cut across to London. My colleague Nikunj is standing by in London. He's just come out of that hearing. Nikunj, if you can hear me, this is Faye D'Souza from the Mirror Now studio. Could you tell us what the final decision of the court was, please?
Well, yes, Faith, the final decision, of course, the critical part of it is that Nirav Modi has once again been declined bail. So his second unsuccessful attempt to secure bail to be a free man has been foiled today or been stalled today by the judge, Judge Emma, who is the regular extradition magistrate here at the Westminster Court, where this entire hearing took place behind me. And the critical part, or the second critical part of this today's hearing is that at least in the public domain for the first time, this case has moved from the confines of a alleged white-collar crime to in the completely criminal domain. What the prosecution today insisted upon was that his conduct is the conduct of not of a businessman who has somehow burnt his fingers, whose businesses have collapsed, and that's why was forced to do something that he otherwise would not have done. But the prosecution insisted that he's a hardened criminal who has abducted his directors, who has seized their passports, and has forced to give false testimonials to the enforcement agencies much before the examination began. And that is what, to my understanding, persuaded the judge finally, despite substantial concessions coming in from defense, like a £2 million surety for Nirav Modi and a 24/7 electronic surveillance, that the judge declined the bail. So I think in all, we have today seen a dramatic escalation of the charges that have been leveled against Nirav Modi so far. And in the entire realm of charges that we have been discussing and reporting in India, for the first time have moved into a completely different domain, and that is of criminal adjudication of charges. And once the trial also starts, obviously all these criminal charges will have to be proven by the prosecution, and they will then take precedence over any kind of civil offences or the financial bungling charges that have been leveled against Nirav Modi and company so far. So this now becomes a completely criminal trial as far as my understanding goes, just as some weeks back Jabir Moti, a key aide of Dawood's syndicate, was being tried at the same court by the same magistrate, who is also right now cooling his heels despite assurances of substantial sum of surety inside the same prison as Nirav Modi. So that's I think the key development that we are witnessing today here at the Westminster's Court in London.
All right, Nikunj, many thanks for giving us that update. Nikunj Garg, our colleague there, bringing us live updates from London of the Nirav Modi bail hearing. An update for our viewers: no bail will be granted to Nirav Modi. We understand he will stay in jail in the UK for the next 4 weeks at least. I want to give Ashutosh an opportunity, Ashutosh, to respond to Neeti Jain and the argument that she was making that this is the government's swiftest reaction to any sort of criminal complaint, and this is perhaps the swiftest reaction from any government at all. Your response, Ashutosh?
I think it's a very bizarre argument which has been given. Basically, this is a spin which has been given to a story which the accountability, responsibility lies with the Modi government. I have no doubt about it, because 2014 onwards, what the government was doing, there was an income tax report, and the income tax report was suppressed. And even if let's accept her argument that it was because of the Rahul Gandhi. Now the issue is when what action has been taken against the income tax department? Any senior officer has been hauled up? What action has been taken against the vigilance officer? What action has been taken against other officers? None. So the fact is, we are told to believe that the government has moved swiftly. It has moved so swiftly that the serious fraud offence of the London had been trying to get some assistance from the Indian agency, and finally they get very disappointed, disheartened, and they stop pursuing the case. Even if when they offered that I want to come to India and discuss, even that was not entertained, then what swift action has been taken? So it's all a bizarre argument given by the BJP, and it has no substance per se. And I still believe that if a parliament election has not been so close, and if he had not been spotted by the Guardian newspaper London, then nothing would have moved in this case. And I can still tell you that nothing will move on this issue, because it's not only Nirav Modi was seen with the Prime Minister, or Prime Minister has been seen in a video calling Mr. Mehul Choksi as a Mehul Bhai. There is something more sinister and much bigger in this story.
Well, not only was he walking the streets to be discovered by a London journalist, he was then discovered by every single Indian channel on that same street corner, and he then walked into a bank with an arrest warrant against him to open a new bank account. And that is when the clerk noticed that this is a man with an arrest warrant against him, and alerted the authorities. That's how he was finally arrested. It was almost like he was timing it to a certain point. Geeta Luthra, at the end of the day, my concern here is with if the government believes this is the best possible reaction, we're going to have other cases happen as well, because we're not plugging the holes. Right now, as we speak, Naresh Goyal of Jet Airways is in London, and there hasn't been an investigation into his accounts either. So we need to plug the holes, and that should be our top priority. Ms. Luthra.
I absolutely agree. I think to that extent, RBI has a great responsibility. It has to make sure that its systems of all the banks are in place. Vigilance department and other departments are accountable, because what happens is not just what comes on the scene. What happens is behind the scene. You have to make sure, and you can never plug it 100%, but you can try and make sure that so many scams do not take place, and then we are running after, and one or the other political party is playing a blame game, which is not which is not what the people of the country want. I mean, the people of the country want that while business grows, accountability remains. So you don't want to stymie business, so you don't want to say business should not be lent money or should not be able to grow, but at the same time you have to make sure that it's genuine business and that there is enough security, enough, their property is mortgaged or there's security given, so that it's not something which can fly away. So all these systems, it is only the RBI that has to put systems of checks and balances in place so that such frauds are minimized. That I feel.
Absolutely, really well said. Niti Jain, you had something to add? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to make my closing remark on this, that I think we're looking at a very myopic vision of the entire thing. You're not looking at all the actions that have been taken. You're not looking at the kind of money that has been recovered. We're not questioning why these loans were given without any security taken and all of those issues. There are bank officers that have been arrested. The other officers, I'm sure there's a due process that is going on, and they will be questioned and they will be taken action against. But why do we ignore the kind of action that has been taken, the kind of intention of the government that is to get this person back to the country and to have the money given back to the banks and the country? So a very myopic vision is what we are looking at right now.
In fact,
the government has been
Niti Jain,
with all the agencies.
Niti Jain, what you're describing
attached
is the opposite of a myopic vision. If you want us to take a larger view, the larger view would not be to focus on just one bail hearing, but actually look at the entire problem. And the entire problem runs through all of our security agencies, it runs through all of our regulators, it runs through our banks, and it runs through our politicians. That would be the larger point of view. To focus, like you're instructing us to do so, only on the bail hearing is myopic. So our questions have not been answered.
I agree with you on that.
Our questions have not been answered. And I'm going to leave it here because we have run out of time.
But I agree with what you're saying.
But we will come back to it. It's simply down to this. While the ED and the CBI are working very hard at bringing him back, and they've done so again today by making sure that Nirav Modi did not get bail, and he will spend another few weeks in jail while they start with the extradition process. We have to ask ourselves how we got to this place to begin with, why the scam went on for 7 years, why the Income Tax Department filed a report but never submitted it to anybody. CBI, ED, RBI did nothing, saw nothing, said nothing. Punjab National Bank, that actually had this much money leak out of its system, none of that top management has really been held accountable. Central Vigilance has not been held accountable. The officer who was part of the bank machinery and noticed nothing. We're not plugging the holes in the system. Remember, Nirav Modi walked away with 13,500 crore rupees. A fraction of that would have sufficed to bribe several people. Are we looking for those people? Are we checking to make sure that they weren't in fact bribed? If If we don't, we risk this happening over and over and over again. Focusing on just one bail hearing will not stop the problem. Thanks for watching.